Hello, welcome to True Talks with Charlie. Got some headphones and I almost forgot. Hello, this is True Talks with Charlie. Can you hear me? I want to make sure. Sorry. Having technical difficulties here. Not really, but okay. Okay. Hello, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's like a
Okay.
little bit of a sound, but I can hear you fine. Yeah.
But is it sound like annoying? It's AC. I don't know. Well, I don't
It's
know.
not annoying.
I just,
it, it, it
I know
sounds
that's
like
I know that's subjective, but you know what I mean. Is
it's
it
fine. It's fine.
distracting?
No,
Okay,
no, no.
that's the
It's not
question.
distracting.
Is it distracting? That
No, no,
sorry,
no.
that
It's
was a
fine.
better word. See, vocabulary.
It's fine.
Okay. So this is True Talks with Charlie. Just to give everyone a background, whether you're watching now or later. So True Talks with Charlie is just exploratory conversations. So what we do here is basically I invite guests on and I just ask them questions about their life, about like what they're learning, what they're journeying through, what they believe in. We can pick any sector of their life to talk about and we just stay curious about it. There are no right or wrong answers here. This is all about truth, right? That's all it is. So today we have Danielle, and we're going to talk about experimenting with surrender, which I'm so excited about because surrender is my word for the year. That was faith. So I'm like, ooh, I want to know what other people are going through. I always feel like we are all a reflection of what's possible as humans, right? Like we can all I feel like we're all on a journey taking different paths but going to the same place, right? And it can look different and be different for each and every one of us, but I love hearing people's stories. I think it's so special, so important, and so this is kind of why I do this. So I let every guest introduce themselves, and the reason why I do this is because I am someone who value free spiritness, right? And so I can be any type of person any day, any moment. And so I give myself that space and I always want to give everyone else the same space. So if you want to just tell us whatever you want us to know about you.
For sure. First, thanks for having me. Thanks for bringing this vision to life. For giving us the opportunity to speak our truths and holding the space for us. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. My name's Danielle. Any pronoun is affirming to me. I am a mental health therapist. I practice photography. I just kind of do whatever feels good, whatever I enjoy doing. I'm in a space and a place where I'm kind of shifting and moving. And like you said, I think a lot of people are in this space and place in this time of life. So yeah, I think we'll get into a lot of things when we talk more, but that's generally who I am, what I do.
All right. So before I get into the nitty gritty of our conversation, one thing I always do is like affirm whoever I'm talking to. So you are like the first guest that I never spoke to prior to you applying, right? So like
Yeah,
this is so what I think is so exciting. I love my energy because I feel like I kind of can vibe with anyone because I
yeah,
can shift like that. Not that I will do it, but I could do it, right? And so I'm always interested to see what it's like for me to be with a stranger, right? You don't really know me. You don't know my mannerisms. You, right?
yeah.
Like something that's normalized for me can be offending to you. So I always think it's like interesting um to watch all of that, right? To just be an observer to it. But the other thing is too, like once I did realize who you were, right? Like, because you come into my awareness, I do see your photography, and so I really am curious about that because I am gonna ask questions about that. And so I think it's super brave that like anyone who says yes to talking out loud, I think is brave in this world, right? Because you could say something that offends someone, you can like do something that is very normal to you that can offend someone, right? And all of a sudden you become this thing to attack, right? Like you just don't know what can happen. And so I always think it's brave for anyone to come to the space. So the fact that I didn't have to go seek you out, which I usually have to do with people, and you just came, it's like super exciting for me. So I cannot wait to hear your story, your journey.
Yeah.
I already think you're amazing. I'm already excited about you. Like as soon as you applied and I went to your Instagram page, I felt your energy and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good time. And you know, I'm always down for a good time. So,
Yes.
so yeah, so right away I could feel your energy and I was like, yes, let's go.
Yes.
So I'm really grateful for you. I'm really excited.
Yes.
Yes. And so I have a warm-up question for you. First, I have one question. I'm like dying to know your sun sign.
My sun sign? Oh, I'm in Aries. Aries sun.
Okay. Oh, yes, I did ask you. I was like, I feel like I asked this. Of course I would have asked this. I feel like I asked you that. Like,
Yeah.
I like Aries people. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is the thing. You might have to think about it. I don't know. So, if you could invent a holiday, what would it be and what would you call it?
Oh, that's an interesting one. If I could invent a holiday, I think I'm gonna talk it out as it comes to me, but I think it would be something that would, you know how holidays we like give things or things are present, we go places, all of those things. It would be a day where things are like removed, like where things are like obligations, responsibilities, going places, any of those things are like removed. So maybe like a universal like vacation day, like where nobody has to do anything, nobody's responsible for anything, no one has to go anywhere, any of those things. So yeah, whatever that would be called, like just remove it all. Nobody has to do anything or go anywhere.
Oh my god! Wait, but what about the kiddos, like the infants? Who's gonna take care of them? How does that work?
That's not really my responsibility. No, I'm just kidding.
I love it. Okay,
we can, delegate someone for the task. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Oh, that was so good. I like it. Blanket day. Okay.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah, you can rest. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Responsibilities. Oh my god.
Exactly. No responsibilities. No work. No nothing. You get paid for the day. You don't have to worry about anything. I think it would give people the space to actually figure out what they like to do, what they want to do, like without obligation.
Yeah,
I think that would be great.
Oh man. That's so good. Is it my problem?
You're thinking about it. You're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about a lot of I'm thinking about a lot of things concerning it. I mean, listen, I used to always say if I'm president, school is not allowed on Saturdays or Sundays. Like it's not even a thought process. You can't you can't kinda, nobody can go to school. Like younger version of me. I don't know what I care too much about right now, but I'll figure it out. I'll find something else to get rid of. Sure. Okay, so are we ready for the conversation?
I think so. I think we're ready.
Okay. And anyone watching, please always feel free to leave comments there, and I will be mindful to try to bring them in as we're talking. So I'm gonna go back to what you originally wrote, kind of, and then you can kind of invite us in, or you can just kind of tell us like, no. Okay, so this is all about surrender, and one of the things that, because I'm gonna set up a structure. One of the things, so we need a container. I felt that feminine energy going, wow. No. We need a container. Okay. We're not doing that. Okay. So one of the things that you wrote when you wrote in about what you wanted to talk about was the idea of transitions, right? And the need to kind of surrender during them or to let go of control. So specifically what you were talking about here is like that you had this life plan that you kind of like had and you executed. So I kind of want to go back to the beginning of this plan, right? Like how much you want to tell us about the plan. Tell us about the plan and like basically how you started journeying towards it. And during that time, I'll ask like questions.
Okay, for sure. So for me, I think the biggest transition right now is about like career and like life plans, I guess. And so what that journey looked like for me from kindergarten through grad school, I never took a break. I never took any time off or anything like that. I was a kid who was always thinking about what do I want to do when I grow up? I want to do this, I want to do that. How do I get there? What qualifications do I need to have? From the start of me, I think I had my first job when I was 16. Ever since then, I've had jobs to like build a resume to like get somewhere. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go, but I knew the qualifications that I needed, where I'm trying to go. It's always looked like that. School is very regimented. It's very, you do A through Z and you get whatever you need like after that. It's very follow these rules. You'll get the grades. You will get the degree. You will find the career, and there's a path. It's pretty much laid out for you from first grade through grad school. You follow the path. It's lined out for you. All you have to do is kind of show up and do the work, but the path is there. And it's very easily seen and shown, and it's very easily like validated, I think. Like everybody knows, oh, you just go to school, you get this degree, you get accolades, people love that, you have letters behind your name, all of these things. It's very much so validated in our society. And so my path has looked very much so like that, like just kind of, I don't want to say blindly, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a therapist, I wanted to help people. Before studying psychology, I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a firefighter, and then I realized I just want to help people. So I studied psychology, fell in love with it, and went through undergrad. Last part of undergrad, I figured I might as well go to grad school so I can be a therapist, and that's where I am now. So I did it. I went through what I wanted to go through and came out of the other side, and now I'm in a place where I'm like, I made it here, and this is what I know to do since I was a kid, to go to school, follow the rules, get the degrees, and now what? Like, where do I go from here? What do I actually want to do? That is not necessarily a regimented path. That is not necessarily like a worldwide, validated path. And so, yeah, just stepping out of that, stepping out of something that is predictable, I guess, and going into what is actually flows, what is actually like in my heart, in my soul to do. So,
right.
yeah.
And even if that was a regimented path, right? Because I kind of see that as the traditional path. That's what I call that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the
Yeah,
traditional way to go, right? Because it's expected and it's validated, all those reasons. So were you raised or were you around a lot of people who value education, or like what was that like? Because I feel like
yeah, I would say that. I think I grew up in a very pretty strict household, and another part of me growing up in a very like regimented way. I grew up in the church, and when I say in the church, I mean like in the church, like Bible studies on Wednesdays. I was in the band, I was in the choir. My parents were ordained ministers, all of those things. And so, on top of school being very regimented, growing up with a really strict religious background, also is you have a whole book telling you how to live. You have a whole book telling you what to do, what not to do, the consequences that you'll get if you do or don't do this. And so, but yes, education was very much so valued. Following rules was very much so valued. Like, this is a life that you live, and these are the consequences you get if you don't, and this is what you get if you do. But yeah, school, it was very much so not bringing home anything less than a B, or it's major problems. So it was very much so a thing that I just kind of fell in line with.
So interesting. I like that. Like it meaning it makes sense. Like I feel that. So my question for you now. So like, what are you looking forward to now? Like what would that look like now, as far as like not being on that path, right? Like I think before I even go there, was there anything that sparked this?
I think what sparks a lot of change, at least for me, is being uncomfortable. I'm a person, we talk about my sun sign. I'm an Aries sun, Aries moon, Leo rising. I have a lot of fire in my charts. So passion is like my thing. Like if I'm not passionate about something, like I can't do it. Like I really can't. And that comes to career too. Like, I am not a person. I was like, oh, it's just a job. Like, I don't have to love it. No, it's what am going to spend most of my life doing. So I need to be passionate
Mm-hmm.
about it. I need to enjoy it. And so something is happening within my job that I have that has made me very uncomfortable. Like, it's not the same sense of passion that I've had before. It's not the same sense of like fulfillment that I've had before. And that always signals to me like, it's time to move. It's time to change. It's some time to like do something different. And so that's what's been maybe for for a few years. The pandemic has kind of like shaken some things up, but to be honest, for the past few years, but more so within the last year or so, the discomfort that I felt within my career has kind of sparked me to kind of move and change and do something different.
Mm. Do you have any ideas already, or?
I mean, I know what I like. I know what I'm passionate about. You mentioned my photography. It's something that I've wanted to do since I was a kid. Um, and so I've in the last like couple of years I've gotten into it a little bit more, like and a little bit more and a little bit more. And so for me it's always been just like following that passion, like following what like I always say what sets my soul on fire. Like whatever I'm excited about, whatever gives me that sense of like fulfillment. And for me, like photography is that. Do I know how to make a living off of photography? Do I know that everything is going to be fine if I step off this path?
But is that
Not
something you would
necessarily.
want to make your job? Because I mean, just
Yeah,
okay, okay,
yeah, absolutely. I would. My dream is to live off of creating. Like I thoroughly enjoy just creating, waking up, having a slow day, and just creating. And like that would be my dream. It's very when we talk about like regimented paths versus like not so much. I know if I wake up and I go to work, I'm gonna get this check. I'm gonna have these benefits. I'm gonna have all of these things that I don't have to worry about any of those things. When it comes to creating, it's kind of I can create what I love. That doesn't mean that anybody's gonna like also relate to it or resonate with it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't really come with health benefits. It doesn't really come with, guaranteed benefits like that. And so it's less I want to say it's less stable, I guess. On paper, I guess less stable. It
mm-hmm.
takes a lot of surrender. It takes a lot of trusting
Yeah.
in what I know to be real, what I know to be true, and is
Mm-hmm.
that if I do follow my passion and what I love, like I will always be taken care of. And I know that logically, and it sounds great coming out of my mouth, but it's still a process.
So I was gonna ask you, right? Like, have you like? Because I feel like so for me, I'm a person that like I have a lot of faith and trust because of experience, right? Like I had to throw myself out there a million times at things that people said don't do in order to realize that if I trust my inner guidance, that I'll be fine, right? Always.
Yeah,
But that came from like risking,
yeah.
right? And so I was gonna ask you that, like, how has it been? Like, have you been taking steps already towards not going with what feels comfortable, but maybe going towards something that feels a little scary, a little shaky, a little.
I'm getting there. It's been a lot of a mental process, and again, it's the I guess being conditioned to have everything together. Like if we're talking about applying to schools, you have to have your letters of rec, you have to have your transcripts, you have to have everything together before you get to the next step. And so I've been very conditioned to have everything together. I need to have this plan, I need to have a name, I need to have all of these things before I can like step out and do what I really want to do. And something that has like started to resonate more with me is that I don't have to have it all together. Like one of the biggest missing pieces sometimes is trust, is trusting in the surrender.
Mm,
And sometimes I think of surrendering as like a trust fall, like into the universe. Like if I'm doing a trust fall into somebody that I trust is gonna catch me, I'm not gonna hesitate. I'm not gonna be looking over my shoulder every 5 seconds. Like, are you good? Are you
yeah,
gonna catch me? No, I'm gonna trust that that's what's gonna happen. And so it's been a process of linking what I know logically to what I know spiritually. And so, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, Nacho. No, yeah, it's like that's so challenging to do, going against the masses. Yeah, because yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's not just challenging, just logically. It's like you get resistance in your body. I think, right, which we call anxiety, right? It's like we all express it and feel it differently, but a lot of times that's also what we're dealing with. It's like anxiety, that social, because
Yes.
like we can't ignore the fact that as human beings we need connection. I think it's so funny when people are like, I don't need people, and I'm like, you'll be surprised that what would happen if you actually didn't have human connection. Or I don't know if animals is enough either. I haven't got that far in my journey to know that, but like I know that human connection. I know that we need connection.
Yeah.
We see it as people are dying as they get older. People who die from a broken heart. Like these things are possible. So learning to trust yourself is an everyday practice. Yes. And so I was going to ask you about your practice of surrender, right? Like, what does that look like? I feel like, I don't know you'll be able to describe it. And I know that I ask people questions like, what does it feel like? What is the experience like? Because I feel like everybody experiences things differently. So I guess I would just ask, like, do you know what your surrender practice is as of now, for like right now, like what it looks like?
Yeah. And I like somebody said that it's an everyday practice, and it is a practice. And so for me, like if we think about we're trying to learn piano, we're not going to start off with the hardest composed piece like ever. You're going to start off with the beginner things and work your way up. And so for me, the practice of surrender has looked very regular. Like for me, it's very much so learning to trust like that inner guidance. And I'm not talking about big things like, oh, I need to, do these major things. I'm literally talking about when I leave work, which route should I go without looking at my GPS? Should I go this way or should I go this way? And trusting like how I feel. And it could make a difference. It could not make a difference. But just learning to trust those small moments where you do have a choice. There's so many choices we make every single day and we don't even think about it. Like we do the same thing all the time. We put the same shoe on first. We brush our teeth with the same hand. We do all of it. There's so many choices that we have. And if we don't step back and look at it, like we don't realize like how much intuition that we could be placing into these choices. And so that's what it's looked like for me. Like I know what I want to do, but it comes with learning to trust myself. And learning to trust myself, we got to start small. We got to start with like the little things that may matter and they may not matter. But feeling that inner knowing and just learning how to trust, learning what it feels like to trust, learning what it feels like to be okay and to trust that intuition and that guidance has been my practice. And so it seems very separate from exactly what I want to do, but I feel like a very integral step in surrendering. Like I have to learn to trust, to trust it all.
I feel like it's all connected. As much as we think that things are so separate, everything is connected, because how we make choices, what choices we're making, is affecting everything. I think something you said that really caught my attention was about choice, right? And one thing I've been playing with and testing out and practicing is like awareness, because you notice that every time you're aware of something, at that moment you have choice.
Yeah.
It's only in awareness that you have choice. You don't have choice when you're subconsciously doing things. You only have it when you're aware of something. And so like that's what I've been having my aha moment, because I'm like, every time I notice something, I have an opportunity to either keep what I'm doing or change course.
Exactly.
Right? And I thought that was just so, like, as small as that is, it's just so like mind blowing how much that will change your life, because it gives you that opportunity to surrender, right? If I'm resisting what's happening right now and I bring awareness to that resistance, I get to decide to let go.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's just that simple. Like, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And so like as far as like when you were younger and you had like you knew to follow this path, and were you ever dreaming of like other things, like, having your own store or like traveling around the world? Like, did you have dreams like or visions like that? Like, what was your imagination doing?
Honestly, no. The funny thing is, or not funny, but the real life thing is, when people affirm you for one thing or another, you become that. Like you get so much affirmation for getting A's, being on the dean's list. You get so much affirmation for being the youngest person to do X, Y, Z, and they're like, yeah, this is great. Like positive reinforcement works wonders. So that's just what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be this person that people were projecting onto me. And it's not that I love what I do. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, everyone decided this for me. No, like I love what I do. Absolutely. And so, but looking back, I'm looking at like, I don't know, like you're saying, I don't know how much awareness I had in those moments to be like, oh, I
Yeah.
could take a break here and figure out what it is I want to do. I could take a gap year between high school and college, or some time between college and grad school to really sit down and think about like what I want to do. But that reinforcement made me feel like I didn't really have time. I was like, oh, I have to do this. Like, this is the path. This is where I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I have to do. This is where I have to go. This is the path that's set out for me. So I didn't really, sad as it is to say, I didn't really have an imagination beyond,
Yeah.
I don't know, elementary school, like in terms of things that I really wanted to
I
do.
get.
I know I
Yeah.
wanted to be a photographer at moments because I had a great grandparent who was a photographer. And I also remember getting gifted like a camera when I was really young. And I remember that was something that I wanted to do. But also, worst wonder was when people are like, you can't make money off of that. Like, you can't, like, that's not a career. That's not
Mm.
something you can really do. And if you're being reinforced in one way and not so much in the other way, as a child, you're just going to take in what makes you feel good and what makes other people happy. And so I kind of cut that off and shut that off to follow the path that I'm on now, which has been great. Like, I'm not here to say, like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done. No, it's been
Well,
fine. It's been great.
yeah. So the reason why I love these conversations because everything you're saying, I resonate with. My journey was very much the same. I was very much what I call survival mode, right? I was following that same traditional path. I was very much in survival mode, and my pressure came just from the culture as a whole, right? Not just my parents, but the world. I wanted out of what I saw, right? And so I followed the traditional path that told us that's the way out. That's why you
Yeah.
get to see letters behind my name because I was chasing something that the world told me I could have by doing this. So like as much as like it might sound crazy, I'm like, nah, I was doing the same thing, right? Like I might call it something different, but it's just a reminder that like so many of us is really experiencing these same pressures, these same stresses, these same things, and it just may look different
Yeah,
on us.
most
And that's
definitely.
why I have so much compassion for where people are on their journey because I know this shit is no joke.
Yeah,
And you can easily be convinced. Your brain can be convinced and really you could be so delusional to believe you're something you're not. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just because of how much is affirmed. And it's
yeah, exactly.
like
Exactly. It's just like what you were
that
saying before, that lack of awareness. Like if we're just going through the motions every day and we don't realize how much choice we have in the everyday, how many people hate their job and are just like, yeah, this is just what it is. And it's like, no, like it doesn't have to be like that
yeah.
necessarily. I acknowledge the privilege in that statement, of course, but there's so many things that we do that we feel like this is just what we have to do, or this is just who I am. This is just what it is. And we don't cultivate that awareness. We don't cultivate that knowledge that there's choices. There's so many choices we make every day. So many choices.
I,
So
no,
many.
I'm telling you, I've been wild lately. I'm telling because surrender is everywhere around me. Like this is like the message I keep getting since the end of last year. And so like that awareness just changed the whole game for me. Because now it's like with awareness, though, you have such a responsibility, right? Because I can't say now, oh, I wasn't thinking. Nah, I thought
Yeah.
about it. And I still did. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. With that awareness comes responsibility. So I can understand why some people don't want the awareness because you could just go through life and not have any responsibility for anything.
Right. And got to deal with the backlash. Right. But and it's so much easier to be a victim of like the circumstances or the situations. And I understand too. I always talk about like, yes, I understand the privilege and a lot of what I say.
Yeah,
And a lot of that came out of being dragged. I got dragged
yeah.
by life. Like, let's not get into it. I did and still get dragged. But I've also learned to surrender. Like, if you're going to drag me, all
Hey, I'm
right,
not about to fight. Like,
okay. So right, and I just feel like you got like I don't know, surrender really did like change my world. So like that's why I'm in awe when like having like also hearing other people's stories of it and their journey with it because you do have to come to a place of this to really be free from life because if not, it's obstacles everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
People telling you what to do, how to be.
exactly. It's all, yeah. It's not
Yeah,
easy. It's definitely not
and then your own beliefs,
easy.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
So
most definitely.
but as you're journeying now, okay, so now that you're on your path, right, you're still gonna do, even when you were telling the story about your journey, I was thinking to myself, like, as much as, yeah, that's a traditional path, but what if that really was clearly meant to be your path, right? Like not forever, but for the time being, right? That was my thought process. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you got the money,
Yeah,
you got the community, you got, right? Like there's a reason for
exactly.
it, whatever. Okay, that was like my other thought. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the traditional path, right? But as long as it's what you want to do.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I wanted to say. Like, there's nothing, like, I don't regret anything. Like, I think that I am where I am who I am because of the path that I've taken. And I think it's great. I think I absolutely love what I do. And I think it's a privilege and an honor to do what I do. And I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. And I think that it's just, like we're saying, cultivating that awareness. Who I am today is not who I was when I started this journey. And so giving myself the grace and the space to be like, okay, I am different now. My desires are different now. So what is it that I want to do now with this? And not just, oh, well, I've always done this, so I'm going to keep doing this. Like, no, giving myself the courtesy of getting to know myself again and be like, all right, now I'm here. Where do I want to go with this? Like, I want to step off of the path that I've always been on that's taken me here and trust that it will take me somewhere else, or just kind of stay and be and do what I've always done. And so I'm choosing to step off of the path and do something different. Um, it's a little terrifying, but it'll be okay.
Yeah. But you're right now you're doing both, right? Like you're still at
Yeah,
you're still doing therapy, right? And then you're doing
yeah,
the yeah. So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
not I'm not saying that your choice. I'm like, what's the rest? Like, I do believe that we can have it all, right? And it's up
Yeah.
to you to decide what that looks like and it's for you. I don't know. Because I've lived many lives in this one lifetime, and I just feel like the limitations we used to have, or this idea that you stay at an employment for 20, 30, 40 years is gone, right? And now we actually do get the opportunity to say yes to several jobs. Like my dream is just to do everything I love. Like I don't want no structured schedule. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So everybody wants and desires something different. And I believe it's really possible to have. So like you can have your therapy and photography. You can have a therapy photography course. Like who knows? What is possible and what you can create by doing everything you love, and making even photography an art form for therapeutic relation. You know what I mean?
Hey,
So much is
exactly.
possible is what I'm
I was
getting
gonna say,
at.
feed me the ideas, Charlie. Tell me the ideas.
So much is possible, right? We use art
Yes.
all the time in art therapy. So like so much is possible for you, what you want to do, and still even
Yeah.
feeling a little safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to surrendering to even the possibilities that it might not look like a traditional path and just trusting like what that is. All of the things that I want to create, things that I want to create, there's no guidelines for it. Like there's no, curriculum for it. There's no course for it necessarily. And there's things to sharpen my skills, sure, but if it's something that I want to create like from myself, I have to trust. I have to trust like where that's coming from and trust that that is something that needs to be created, something that I want to create. And so again, just trusting, surrendering to that knowing, I guess that would be
Yeah.
surrendering to that knowing.
I love it. And something else I'm gonna bring up before I'm not gonna forget, but I'm gonna bring it up right now. I feel like you should pull your human design chart.
Wow, wait, tell me about that. What is that? My
Okay,
human design part.
wait. Should I do this? I think I can do this offline.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of like your astrology chart, but it's all about how your energy works and how it basically communicates with the universe, and how the universe communicates with you, and how you could best utilize your energy for how you were intended to operate.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay,
I want
I
to know
think
all
that's
about that.
great.
Yes.
If anybody else
Yes.
knows about it, if I left anything out, but I think that's just the general gist of it.
Cool. I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
really heard of
yeah.
that. Yeah, that
Yes,
sounds awesome.
yes, yes. You can ask me all the questions in my DMs. But yes. So what are some of the things that I guess that you learned or you became aware of on this path that you feel like are like really shifted things for you and even probably like freed you up a bit? Because I think even like knowing now that you have choice is like liberating. Like
Yeah, I think something is just learning more about the obstacles. Like we can always say like, oh, it's hard to do this or, awareness brings this, but like what are the actual obstacles that like I need to get through and push through in order to make surrender like possible? I think if I'm being honest, I think my whole life I've been a lot more reliant on validation than I want to be ever again. When it comes to external or validation, you know, of other people saying that you're great, you got this degree, you're doing all these things. But also the validation of the school system. You do this, you get an A or you get a B, and like everything is graded. Everything is, somebody's giving me their opinion about what I'm doing. Somebody's telling me this is great, this could be better, this is right, this is wrong, and relying on that external validation to tell me that I'm good, basically, at bottom line. Tell me that I'm okay. Tell me that what I'm doing is acceptable. And when it comes to, so that's been a major thing that is shifting for me, like not relying on validation or being open. So people are going to have their opinions, but being firm and strong in what I believe to be true and what I believe to want to do. Because when it comes to art, not everybody's going to like your art. Like it's just the truth. And so not being afraid to share things, not being afraid to put yourself out there. Like art is a very sensitive thing for me. I speak for myself. Like it comes from me. Like I birthed these things. Like if I show you this, like it is very vulnerable for me to send this to you or to show this to you or put it on a public space. Like this is my child. Like this is my baby. And so to be that vulnerable to criticism or to people liking or not liking or, you know, all of those things, like that's been a lot of where my shift is happening right now, where it's just like, again, it sounds great coming out of my mouth, like not caring what people think, but undoing and unwiring all of those things, unwiring your nervous system to not care, like that somebody didn't like this, or somebody, that somebody has a critique of this, or somebody, and not taking it personally. Like all of that has been, it's just been a part of the major shift that is happening. That is, it's difficult. It's a difficult shift for sure.
I'm a major human. So as you're talking, right? So you know, I also told you, like, I'm very big on surrender right now as well. And so, like, some of the areas that I've learned to surrender in came from my human design chart. So I'm really excited for you to, like, check yours out, because they do show you spaces where you're likely to be conditioned, right? Where, like, for me, it's like holding so tightly to my opinions, right? To the point that, like, I used to want to defend them, right? I used to feel like if you insult my opinion, you're insulting me. And and that's a sense of surrendering, right? Being able to surrender that attachment to this belief, right? That attachment to this ownership, that attachment to whatever, right? Like these moments we can surrender anytime we find ourselves attached to something. And so like I learned all that through my human design. And so like I started paying attention to it in my world, like where I saw it coming up. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I used to do growing up. And it caused me so much stress, right? It caused me so much anxiety because I was so, and then I became so concerned about what people thought of me, right? Like, it was just all these things that was like creating my own chaos in my world, when in reality, if I just like, don't argue with people, don't fight with them, let them have their opinion, don't try to convert them. Look what happened. I ain't peace around me. I'm like,
look at that. When you let go, right?
Yeah. It was like, we own this. Okay, they trying to fight us. Like, no, they were not. Like,
yeah. When you say that, I think of this visual. Maybe you've seen it. There's like a picture of somebody like holding onto a rope so tightly that it's like cutting off their circulation. And then once they like let it go, like they're able to like release, and literally like they think they have to hold on to this like so tightly, and they're now realizing how much harm it's causing them. And when you let go, like you're so used to holding it, so it might feel uncomfortable for a while, but you give yourself the opportunity, your hand the chance to move, your hand the chance to heal, and all of that kind of stuff. So just letting go of those attachments, what we think we have to hold on to so tightly, is actually maybe what's holding us back. So
that's what I've been like. That's what I've been journaling lately about the things that we're attached to. I feel like either slows us down, holds us back, right? Because I think life, we're gonna continue to move whether we want to or not. But things are continue to happen that we gotta react to or respond to, right? Like there's only so much you can do about that. But it's a lot of just like letting go, and it's really just a practice, because it's constantly gonna be things for you that you're going to have to let go of, or decide whether or not you want to let go. Because I don't think everything has to be let go, but all it does is come down to choice. Like, do I want it in my life? Don't I want it?
Exactly.
And decide what to do with it.
Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of presence to know, like, what is it that I want, like, in my life? and what is it that is supporting this and what is not supporting this. And a lot of presence and a lot of honesty. Like a lot of times we may know that something is not good for us, a job, a person, anything. And but we're still like attached to that. Like we still want to do that, but it's like harming us and you just like have to let it go. I'll tell like a quick story. Like I used to love like really spicy food. Like it was a game for me. Like it was a challenge. I'll eat the spiciest thing. Like I'll put ghost peppers like on my eggs. I love spicy pepper. I long story short, I realized that I was kind of like eating spicy food makes me break out. Like if I eat too much spicy food, and it took me a long time to be like, I love this. Like this brings me joy and pleasure, but it's like harming me. Like it's like literally physically harming me. And so being attached to like I'm eating spicy food since I was a kid, and I love it. And so it's something that I love. That is kind of like I don't want to say it's like a part of my personality, but like if something was spicy, like I'm doing the challenge, like I'm doing that. Like that's something that I love to do. But knowing that it's something that's harming me as I've gotten older, I'm like, all right, well, I can choose to stay attached to this and just like break out all over the place, or let it go and find something else that is flavorful and like brings me joy. That was a process, like to like get to throw away all my hot sauce to not, eat spicy things anymore. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but letting go of things that we're attached to can be as simple as that.
Yeah. But I think it's those simple things, right? Those everyday things that it really does make a big difference. That's why I'm starting even to be like, there's no small things I do. Like everything is impacting everything else I'm doing. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's all little steps. It's all building blocks. It's all connected. So.
Another thing too I thought about is like it goes back to too like us, like you say about journeying in grace, humanity, right? Realizing and recognizing that this is all part of being human, right? Like these highs, these lows, these challenges, these questioning what people think about us, like all of this, whether or not you actively are always going through it or not, like it's part of being human. The shame, the guilt, like these are things for us to expand through. Like they're not the worst things, they're invitations really to remember or
Exactly.
to liberate us, so I like that's how I look at it. And I know a lot of people say, and I too say, it's easier said than done, but like with practice and the more you see evidence of it in the world, it's so much easier to let go of a lot of shit that we hold on to that really is just taking the joy out of shit. Like,
yeah. Yes. Once we realize that.
Yeah, because even when we mess up, a lot of times it be funny as shit. Like, because you're like, I really just did that dumb shit. Like,
Yeah.
I stay laughing at myself. I'm like, yo, girl, that was common sense. Like, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to get there, but when you do, you just realize how human you are. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what is this about it? All right. So y'all mean to tell me I ain't gonna never be perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So I just relax into that now. So.
Exactly. No, I think that's a really good point. Like the perspective that we take on things, like being able to see a mistake or something that we did wrong as like, all right, okay. Like it's not the end of the world. This is the design of me. Like I'm not supposed to be perfect. So check mark, I did what I was supposed to do. Let's make a mistake.
Right. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Right, because it goes back to like what we said, like it's rough being yourself in this world, and so like at some point, like you got to be the one to give yourself that grace, that compassion, all of that, and then you can share that with the world, right? And then the more people can just practice that, the more of us can be kinder and nicer. Because I don't know,
Yeah. I think it's a very also like a unique position that it's put me in. Like as a therapist, like I cultivate compassion. Like I have these safe spaces for all of these people. They can tell me anything. And I'm like, yeah, like cool, that's fine. Like it doesn't really matter. But then when it comes to me, I expect myself to be perfect. I expect myself to not mess up. I expect myself to not do anything wrong. But
why.
yeah, it's so much easier. Sometimes I speak for myself to see other people and their mistakes. I was like, oh, it's just like a piece of this. Like you can do better. Like you're going to do better. Like this is just a piece of who you are. Versus me, like taking it personally. Like that is also a struggle. Like dealing with perfectionism. I think I need to be perfect. Like I think that like why can I not get everything right the first time? And so dealing with that and giving myself the grace to be, like you said, just be human. Like this is what this is all about. This journey is all about. if we were to figure it out on day one, there would be no journey. There would be no
Yeah.
process. There would be no,
Oh.
anything. There would be no reason for all of this. So taking it in stride, taking it as a part of the puzzle, a part of the journey. So.
So how have you, or what is your experience with dealing with like pivots, right? Or unexpected things happening? How do you usually take those things in?
Uh, Not great.
Okay.
I'm a type of person. I like things again. Like I like things to be very regimented. I can be a very spontaneous person, but I'm in control of my spontaneity. Like if I want to do something or not do something. And so that has been something too. Just like surrendering that control of this. Is not how this is supposed to work. Like this isn't what I envision. I typically will go with the flow. And by go with the flow, I mean like suppress any feelings that I do have about it, and I'll do the thing like whatever needs to happen. Um, but I'll suppress all of the feelings. I'll suppress all of the anxiety, and so I don't know if that's necessarily going with the flow or just being flow like into the flow. It's not. I'm not going. Like I'm just being flowed into it. So working through that, like working through it, actually acting out what I believe. Like I can sit here and say like, yeah, just surrender like to the process. But if I'm over here like gritting my teeth, if I'm over here like suppressing all of the feelings that I actually do have, that's not like real surrender. The same way I was telling, if you are trust falling into someone that you actually trust, you're not about to be like, all right, are you good? Like, are you sure? Like, are your hands strong enough? Like, are you okay? No, you're just gonna fall and you're gonna trust that they're gonna be there. And so that's what I think of surrender as like a trust fall into the universe. Like, is it I have to act out as if I trust that it's going to be there. I know there's things that I have to do logistically, of course, to be prepared. But when it comes to the little things, when it comes to the pivots, when it comes to trusting that this pivot is divinely orchestrated, that this time is divinely orchestrated. And so to answer your question, pivoting right now, I'm not the best, but I see how I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
do better and working through
But
working
it
on
makes
how to.
sense, right? Because your process right now is surrender, right? And if you're journeying through that, that's gonna come up too. It's part of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fuck it, YOLO.
Yeah.
Right, because the thing
Exactly.
is, like, how do we learn these things if we don't have the experience, right? Like, yeah, it goes back to like what you saying, like, all this is logic. Yeah, we can read books that talk about this and like give us step by step instructions. But reality is, like, actually doing it in the real world, in real life, is such a different experience. And you have to figure out what that looks like and how to do that for yourself, right?
Exactly.
Because, like, someone's telling you from their experience with everything they're capable of doing, right? Like, I talk a lot from a place of someone who feels energy, who feels things all day, every day, right? Like, so it's easy for me to be like, what does that feel like? Because all day I'm with my feelings, and that's all I know. I know how to process it really well. But someone who's not connected to their body, they're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck you mean? Like, they can
Exactly.
explain to me though what they're feeling, right? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like, so the journey for all of us looks different, right? And the surrendering looks for all of us. We get different opportunities to practice it, and that looks
Yeah.
different too, including the pivot. I'm
Yeah.
afraid, y'all. I'm used to surprises in life, so I have no choice but to get used to pivots. Cause in
Yeah.
life, every like since I was young, things just the unexpected just kept happening, and then you get to a point
Yeah.
where you're just like, all right, ain't
Yeah.
nothing. You realize there's not much you can do,
Yeah.
and you still
Exactly.
scared, but you just realize like you
Yeah.
gotta just keep going.
No, most definitely. I think that's something too about taking traditional paths and having things like very regimented. It gives you this, I would say, like a false sense of control. Like it gives you a sense of like, okay, well, if I do this, then nothing else will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I follow this path, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm starting at A, I will end at Z. And so it gives you this false sense of like security, this false sense of like control. It's not completely false because part of it is true. Like you will get to where you want to get to, but it gives you this sense of like, okay, like, I can control this. I can control this. Nothing will like throw me off path, and I won't have to pivot. I won't have to, we plan our lives 5-year plans, 10-year plans, so we don't have to, anticipate things or pivot or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so just letting that go, realizing that that is a false sense of security. Just because I do this doesn't mean that everything is going to work out for me. I just have to trust that everything is going to work out for me and do what
Yeah.
it is that I want to do. So,
Right, yeah. That's the other thing I'm playing with too, right? Like, I think the last couple of months I've been telling myself like focus on, and I always knew this, but something louder recently has been like focus on your intentions, and the outcome is going to be what it is, right? Because I
Exactly.
can't control that part. And like what you were saying about false sense of security, so I was in the military, and I thought, right, we signed these contracts. Let me tell y'all something, right? These employers, okay, they give y'all these contracts where they can fire you at will, but the minute you want to quit at will, all of a sudden it's an issue,
It's a
okay?
problem.
Like I just can't. But anywho, so I was in the military, right, and this girl got ordered to get discharged, and she only had less than 24 hours. Mind you, she's in uniform, she's at work, she's been at work, and all of a sudden, they're like, yo, you got 24 hours. Like, and so to me, regardless of what happened, I don't care. She wasn't in court. You know what I mean? She wasn't locked up. She was with us, working.
Yeah.
So the fact that she got noticed, I don't care how it came, shocked the hell out of me.
Uh-huh.
Because, shorty, you got 24 hours to decide what you're going to do next. That means your apartment, your check is stopped. Because, you know, the military stopped paying you to pay you stop working.
Yeah.
So thinking about all that, right? Me seeing that as a young adult, witnessing that, y'all couldn't tell me nothing was safe, right? Because I knew at that moment
Yeah.
that anything
Yes.
can happen. Anything can
Uh-huh.
happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I say the same thing about the force of security, and that's what I kind of like encourage people to remember. Is like you don't know what's gonna happen. Like you could plan out your life perfectly, and something unexpected could happen, but you can also trust that you're gonna be all right when it does happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but the other side of that is like this false sense of security because like we've seen the world work this way. Like, oh, we want to work towards retirement. I'm like literally witnessing people retire and die. Okay. And so I'm just like, okay. Right. So there's just different point of views, right? So like everybody has to decide for themselves what's the best life because there's pros and cons to all of these apparently.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to call it a
Apparently.
con, right? But
Yeah.
you know, there's good and bad to anything, everything. There's benefits to it all, but
Yeah.
can nobody guarantee you that that path they telling you to take is gonna work? Like it worked for
Exactly.
them or for other people, it doesn't mean it's gonna work for you,
Exactly. No,
and that you're gonna
absolutely.
enjoy it.
I was just talking to somebody about this. Like we've been conditioned to plan for the long term. And the more and more we live in today's world, that long term might not be so long. So like planning, like what are we actually planning for and what are we like losing our presence in today in order to like set it off for like later. And we're like, oh, we'll just do this. I'll save this so I can do this later. But like, what are you doing today? Like later might not come. Like real life, like later might not come. And so what is it, what am I doing today that is cultivating the presence that I want? And that is like taking those
I
small
love that.
steps to doing and being like what I want to do. If that time comes, I will be doing this and not just thinking about like only that time is when I'll be able to do this. Like no, every day you take a step towards what you want to do and where you want to be. And so
Right.
not just waiting because there is no security. Like I mean, we see the world we live in. Like we see what's happening, what's going on, what's not happening, what's not going on. Like all like the
Right.
I don't think I've ever felt this sense of like, I mean, today is today. I mean, we literally have
Yeah,
today.
cause
And so,
I think about that with everything. Even like thinking about our bodies, right? Like this idea that the capacity your body have or the access you can do with your body now, you're gonna have tomorrow, right? Like the things we take for granted, I guess it's like kind of like you know the things that we get to do every day so easily, not recognizing like these two are like things to be thankful for, right? Because like
yeah,
people's lives change overnight. Shit
yes,
does happen in a matter of seconds. Things do change really
literally,
quickly.
yes,
And so it's like living in the present, being with what you have access to, being with the moment right now. Like, what do I go from here? Yeah, I'm gonna have
yeah.
to write down what you said earlier. I'm gonna have to rewind it and go write it down. 'Cause I'm like, you know what? That's something to leave on your door, something to leave near the door. Like, all right.
Hey, we get some prints. Send me one. Okay, I don't remember what I said either. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are the wisdom come out. Okay,
yeah,
like you gotta just catch it. Yeah. No, but yeah, this is like delicious because it's like you're on this journey. You know,
yeah,
like you're definitely like in the midst of it and still and exploring it, like you said,
yeah,
experimenting. Um,
yeah. And
I'm
that's what I
really
think.
curious.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Um, I think I really liked the title, like when you said experimenting with surrender. I think it's pretty kind of almost like paradoxical. Like it's almost like I'm gonna jump in the pool and experiment with like getting wet. Like it's either you do or you don't kind of thing. Like it's like a you kind of have to lean into it or you
Yeah.
don't. Like kind of thing. And so
And it
yeah.
reminds me of practice as well, right? Like this idea that it's not about being perfect, like living a surrendered life. Like, we gotta constantly be surrendering. We gotta constantly, I feel like experimenting, I say experimenting because going back to human design, I'm a 1-3. And like one of our, as like a line 3 person, I have a personality that's like, I have to learn by experience. So I actually have to do the thing. I have to touch the stove. I'm going to make the mess. So I can just see what you're talking about, right? Like I need to practice surrender so I can see what you're even talking about, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so like for us, one of the things I started telling myself is that I'm experimenting with life. That way I don't put pressure on myself to be something, to show up in some way. Like I don't care what everybody else is telling me I'm doing. I'm like, oh, no, I was just experimenting. I was just trying shit out.
Yeah.
Listen, I give myself that freedom, right? Because we are all being conditioned. I just decide how I want to be conditioned, and I condition myself by telling myself I'm free to like make this my playground.
Yeah, I love that.
And of course, the intention is to not cause harm in the process, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to do that.
yeah. No, I love that. I love like that sense of like you don't have to be perfect in it. You can experiment. You can practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. It just makes progress, and it makes like learning and all of those things. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your human design because I want to know if you have a line 5. Sorry, I'm like really into this. Like the more I feel your energy, I'm like, oh man, like this is really, and I really think it'll help you too with your surrendering practice.
Okay, I'm
Because
very
it'll show you
interested. Yeah,
areas.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
interesting. Mhm. But yeah, so
yeah.
do you have anything else for us? Anything you want to leave us off with? I always have a final question, but before I do that, like anything you want to tell us that we didn't talk about or like that didn't come up that you can think of?
Um, Not quite. I think that maybe like the final thought is kind of like to be what you've never been, you kind of have to, or to do what you've never done before, you have to be who you've never been before sometimes, and learning to trust this new person, learning to trust like the divinity that is unfolding, is kind of like encompasses my process, encompasses where I am right now, but just learning to trust that divinity of the person that you are becoming, that they will take you and be able to hold you where you want to go. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I feel like we're constantly awakening parts of ourselves, even in that
Yeah.
surrendering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
I'm obsessed with, if anyone who doesn't know who's watching this, I'm obsessed with human evolution. I love interacting with humans. I love watching us just be because I learned so
Yeah.
much just by us, just how we live. I learned so much
Yeah.
just outside. I read a lot, but like I like to, see the real shit. Okay. I need
Yeah.
to see it in practice.
Some things are in the book the way that they are in real life. So yes.
Okay. I was in
Yes.
social work school and I could have sworn, like, I was like, I know y'all not telling me about my life. Like a lot of what you read is like what I grew up in. So I'm just like,
Yeah. Like, how you gonna
I don't
tell
know
me?
about this. Like, but anywho,
Yes.
tangents, y'all,
Absolutely.
tangents. This is just stuff that go on in my head a lot of times. Like, if y'all
Hey.
see me just like with a face on, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm not
I love
judging.
it.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to know what's happening. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I love it.
Thank you
I
all
love
for
it.
hanging
I
out
love
with us. Okay. All right.
it.
So my final wrap up question is: if you could tell some past version of yourself anything,
Ooh.
what would you say?
Ooh. If I could tell some past version of myself
You can talk to yourself now
anything,
too.
the only thing that comes up is you know, like you know, you know.
Period. 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 Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
you know.
Oh my god, I
Yeah,
love that. Mm-mm-mm. All right, we
yeah,
can take that with us. I love that
yeah,
because that's it's really that simple. That's your energy knows that I feel your energy, and I'm just like, you're right, you're right. We know, we know, we know
We
for sure.
know. You know.
But yes, Danielle, I appreciate you so much. This was so fun. I kind of feel like I'm gonna need a part two to this, like when you're on the other
Yes.
side of it, so we can
Yeah.
see like what else you learned.
Little update.
Cause yeah,
Yes.
it took me everything. I like before this, I was praying. I was like, Spirit, don't let me talk too much. Y'all know how excited I am about this topic because I've been studying, you know, and testing it
Hmm.
out too. So, but I'm about to put you on with human design, and we gonna both see. Okay,
Absolutely.
if you
Yes.
connect with
Yes.
it, and then like we gonna see. So
Yeah.
we might have a
No,
part
I'm
two to this
interested.
to see when you're on the other
Yes.
side of it, and to for us to come
Yes.
back together and see like even how HD helps. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm into it. Yes, I would
Yeah.
definitely be
So
hitting you up about the human design. I'm
yeah. I'm about to send
definitely
you the link as
interested.
soon as I get off of this.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as I'm done. All right. Thank
Perfect.
you all. Thank you so much, Danielle. I will speak to you all soon. I'm out of
Alrighty.
here. Enjoy the
Yeah.
rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks, you too.
Also, the next True Talks with Charlie is with Lotus La Lova, and it's on Thursday. That is August 25th at 7 p.m. And so I will see you all on Thursday for another live with Lotus La Lova. Appreciate you all. Enjoy your day. And if you want to be a guest on True Talks with Charlie, I am currently scheduling for September. The application is in my bio. You can just click the link. There's a couple of spots still left, so please consider any topic you want. We can talk about it, all the things. Love you guys. Appreciate you all so much. Take care of yourself.